Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast. We're at episode 744. This is being recorded on October 11, 2023. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sprumberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
You can help support the site and podcast distribution by going to patreon.com/PCPer, because this is art. It's an art form, and it should be a protected right of the people and other things. And Patreon this week, we need to thank Newman. And
Newman.
Hey, the return of Plant in Corner. I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
now
they haven't gone anywhere.
I like the Newman name. Is it Newman in the Seinfeld sense, or is it Newman? Newman.
I hope it's the latter.
It's spelled new, as in I knew it. Mm-hmm. Not new. Because it has a K in front of it. There's lots of words in English that are strange, like that. The silent K.
Very
What's up with the silent K?
Spelled.
Night.
Well, it's like one of my
night.
favorite books that I gave my niece. P is for pterodactyl.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
other
it
horrible English words.
Josh,
Worst dictionary ever written.
PBS has a YouTube channel called Storied, and they have 3 different hosts doing different things, and one of them is a linguist, and she actually did an episode about why the English language is so messed up, and it all really has to do with the printing press and how they were trying to make written language suitable for, all the different English speakers. And so there's a lot of words that are spelled in a French way and a lot that are spelled in a Dutch way. And that's why we have
very few
night
spelled in
spelled
the English way.
Kadiggit,
Yeah.
normally at this time, we throw it to Laramie, Wyoming, and Josh tells us about a burger. But I didn't see anything on Twitter, Josh.
Do you know why?
Tell us.
They say that there's no such thing as a free lunch, but there is. And this free lunch was provided by my employer. Yeah. So I headed over to Cheyenne today, and I got Olive Garden. I had as much salad and breadsticks as I wanted, plus, meatballs, sausage, meat sauce, fettuccine, those things, and plus soup. Can't remember.
Did you snap a pic?
But none of it was.
Did you snap a pic? You got a picture of this spread?
Photography worthy.
Oh.
Yeah,
it
none
wasn't.
of it.
It wasn't
Olive
interesting
Garden.
looking.
Just surreptitiously. Look, I'm not going to say this is something that you owe the listeners and the viewers, but they look forward to this every week. We get dozens of emails, hundreds of loving comments on our YouTube videos every week. This is all a lie.
And think of how disappointed they'd be if they got a picture from Olive Garden.
Yeah, they'd. Well, the thing we didn't even eat at Olive Garden. It was takeout to our office in Cheyenne. So it was in a conference room with a paper plate and paper bowl. And
Was there fluorescent
bowl
lighting
was-
up above?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
great. It was great.
All right.
Josh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie here. There are people who tell me that they use the burger segment as a signpost within the podcast. Now, was that before? Were we talking about it before the burger segment, or did it come immediately
Yeah,
after?
it's BB and AB. Yes.
Yeah. How many?
Wow.
How many stories after the burger segment were we in?
Well, pretty much all the stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
We just
It's
have
always
an
the first
intro
segment
and
before the news.
Patreon, and then
Yeah.
burger.
Yeah.
So,
Brett, have you been on the show before?
This
You
is the
know
first
how
time.
this works. Okay.
It's not the stories, but sometimes people talk about a discussion we may
Great.
be having.
Okay.
And as I was
Let's move on to
saying,
news. Let's move on to news. Welcome to the PC Perspective News Desk, and our first story tonight is of the Intel Arc variety. And Intel, who announced the Arc A580 more than a year ago. It's finally here. They launched it yesterday worldwide, $179.
a bargain.
Which is
Ish.
very puzzling because we're like 24 to 48 hours removed from these aggressive A750 price cuts that have it just $10 above that.
Yeah.
Intel explains to us why it matters, and I'm quoting their press release. Intel Arc A580 graphics represents a compelling new offering in the segment, delivering the modern features of the Arc GPU family to mainstream gamers and creators at a competitive price. Oh, it goes on, but I'll just stop there.
It has a lot of memory bandwidth, and that's what they're pimping.
It does. Yeah, it says at 512 gigabytes per second, more than double the memory bandwidth of the closest competitors. I'm guessing they mean in their price range, but this is as you can see here from this 2022 slide, that it has a 24 Xe core, 8 gigabytes of memory, that nice 512 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. A huge step up from that Arc A380. 175 watts.
And a wee bit power hungry.
Yeah. I was disturbed by this picture of a Sparkle card, which has not one, but two 8-pin power connectors on it. It is OC edition, though.
It's there's no kill like overkill.
A number of outlets had day one reviews, including Tech Power Up, who looked at the Sparkle card and probably every other card. And I was looking through some of the charts. Let me go to the performance page. Hold on. Let's look at a game we all know and love. So looking at Cyberpunk performance with this card, this is at 1080. I'm not sure exactly what their settings are. We'd have to look at their test setup, but here's the A580, just under 60 frames per second, and the A750 is at 66. So this is about 10% slower than the A750. You can read the reviews yourself, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's 10% slower than the 750. It's only $10 less.
Yeah.
Unless the price drops on the 750 were very temporary. Maybe they were just for the prime bonanza that's been going on. It's the A750 at $189 and all these links, Amazon, Newegg. This is a current deal, but okay, it's $10 more for the 750. Am I alone here? If it's 8% more money for 10% more performance, it seems like a no-brainer. You're talking about $10.
It's like the price of a Starbucks coffee.
Yeah, if you get like a
really
venti
crappy,
with an extra
But
shot.
it tastes better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pushing the difference between the 580 and the 750. So, gosh, just if you're gonna go Arc, just get the A750.
They've taken a page from AMD about pricing between SKUs. So obviously, I think the A580 will be quickly within a month dropping down in price and regain some of that value. But it seems like the thing to do these days. Get it out at a little higher price, get some people buying and jumping into it, and then when it slows down, you start dropping down the price until it moves again. I don't know.
If we're just looking at launch pricing, this makes sense. But if you're going to wait a year and a month to release something, and then you're just following your original plan with pricing when the market has adjusted and all of your other cards are either, 10, 20, 30% off at this point. I don't get it, but
they're just trying to get rid of chips at this point, maybe. I don't know. Because it's all the same chip except for the A380.
Yeah, it's the same memory subsystem as the A750 and very close to that performance level, just doesn't have as many active cores. So if this was $150, it would be I would say that would be a compelling price.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
don't know
it's
why
not.
they don't. It should be $99 for the 380, $149 for the 580, and then you get up to $199 with the 750, $249 for the 770. I don't know why
It's
this
not
is so
making
difficult.
sense.
Speaking of Arc, there was a bit of a rough start to Intel Arc and the Starfield game.
It seemed to be a surprise to them. Oh my gosh, Starfield's out. What are we going to do about that?
Yeah, and I was defending them too. I said it's an AMD exclusive title, and it didn't support DLSS at launch. It just seemed like it was optimized for AMD, and maybe that's why Intel didn't really have a great driver for it. But now that they actually have a proper driver for it, they're talking about 149% boost. Massive.
And it was not just the driver, but there was an update on Starfield as well that apparently made things a little bit better for Arc.
So it's still not a game on title, which is what Intel calls their optimized titles. But it is reported that the game should now run 117% smoother at 1080p ultra settings. I'm quoting videocards.com here. And a remarkable 149% faster at 1440p high.
Well, once we pulled all the 64-bit floating point, things actually smoothed out.
It was probably FP64 related, right, Brett?
That's exactly what I was just saying. That's a bit of a callback. That's what we do here sometimes.
Long-time viewers and listeners will understand that reference.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
but
so
yeah,
get excited about the driver update, which also, by the way, brings support for the A580. So,
well, good on that.
So is it better than the RX 7600?
Yeah, the 7600 pretty much stomps the A580, but the A580 does pretty handily beat the RTX 3060, which, while it's last gen, it's still the only card NVIDIA's got in that price range. And and the 7600 is still about $70 more than the A580. So, I mean, but if they drop the A580 down to, like Sebastian said, $150, it could be a really compelling card in that price range. Right now, I think you would just spend the extra money, get the 750, or spend a little more money and get the 7600.
in our next story, Be Quiet is launching not one, not three, but two Dark Rock coolers. Big dual tower, dual fan coolers. The Dark Rock Pro 5, which is the logical successor to the Dark Rock Pro 4. But this new cooler called the Dark Rock Elite is also coming. It has a 280 watt TDP rating, which is pretty high for an air cooler. Now, obviously, Intel flagships like to take things up to 320 to 360 watts. You know, reasonable loads, AMD Ryzen processors, that sort of thing, won't need anything more than one of these. So that's interesting that they offer what they call
eagle-eyed readers have noticed a hint of the RGB on top of
the Elite. I don't know if this picture shows it. This one here, yes. There's a little ARGB panel on the top.
Interesting
of
for
the
Be
Elite.
Quiet.
Yes. They've been slowly but surely embracing the RGB lifestyle.
A little bit more austere, though, they have been, being somewhat of a Germanic background. They're a little bit more purpose bent, I should say, and they haven't really adorned their kit with a lot of spurious lighting.
You're trying so hard. Spurious. That's a good word, though.
Are you a failed English major?
Aren't they all?
Don't make me talk.
I tell you, the thing in those photos that has me the most excited about those coolers is the mounting system. You can see that the crossbar at the bottom is actually attached to the cooler, which means you just have to install the brackets and then remove the top plate, use a long screwdriver, which is probably included, knowing Be Quiet.
Oh, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have loved Be Quiet coolers for many years, but their mounting system has always been a nightmare. And if you remember, the last Be Quiet cooler I reviewed was their Dark Rock Pro TF2, which is their top flow cooler. And that one was the first one of their coolers I had seen that had those mounting screws attached. But seeing at the large coolers with that method, that's fantastic. So I'm excited to see how these perform.
Moving on to our next news story, Microsoft says VBScript will be ripped from Windows in future release.
Ripped.
And you won't be able to program it in WordPad because apparently that's going to.
Ouch. Jeremy, what's this going to break?
A bunch of really important scripts that somebody wrote 20 years ago that nobody realizes is still, the business actually depends entirely on this one little VBScript. And nobody knows how to support it or how to translate it to something else. If you're still using IE because you're a corporation and you just can't move on because you're a dinosaur and, one brain has said that you need to move, but there's still a couple others that haven't caught up yet. It will break a lot of the client scripting that you're still using and is why you haven't moved on from Internet Explorer, which I think is part of why they've done this, because they've been trying to for 5 or 6 years now. saying that, we're getting rid of it. No, seriously, we're getting rid of it. You need to stop. Seriously, stop to put it down. Put the VBScript down and do something else. We gave you PowerShell on the command line. There's something you can do here. So yeah, it will be discontinued. It will be no longer supported. And one of the other things that kind of sucks is that if you still use that old Microsoft deployment toolkit, well, guess what? First off, it doesn't support on Windows 11, but second off, that ran on VBScript, so that's going to stop moving. On the plus side,
27 years was a good run.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it is a malware vector. So in as much as it is kind of annoying that they're getting rid of it and it's going to break unforeseen things, on the other hand, it's like you're not going to have to worry about protecting from those vulnerabilities anymore unless you find a way to keep using it, you bloody lunatics.
So I also agree with Microsoft that we should totally remove the Vacation Bible School crypt. With those kids running down there by themselves, unaccompanied, it's going to only lead to trouble. So good on you, Microsoft.
As long as they don't split up, Josh.
Yeah.
Sticking with the register and with Microsoft gives unexpected tutorial on how to install Linux.
In a weird way, yes. But that's not as straightforward as the headline kind of clickbaits you into. They've suggested that there are potential other uses for that new machine or that newer machine that you can't upgrade past the Windows 8 or Windows 7 because we no longer are giving out free keys for Windows 10 to kind of move you on, or Windows 11. So you're kind of stuck with some really reasonable hardware still. Maybe try Linux. But they're giving you 4 different VM, 3 of which are VM methods in order to move into a way to reuse that hardware using Linux in one bare metal way. So you don't want to necessarily stomp on them for this because it's like, oh my gosh, Linux has a lot of use cases, and it's very useful in many ways. One of which, of course, is reviving old hardware. So, but you don't want to kind of step on them for this, but by the same token, it just seems so, deliciously.
So this is the year.
This is the year of Linux.
This is the year of the penguin.
It just seems, we've waited for Microsoft to recommend Linux as an alternative to Windows. It just seems ideal. But this is the reason behind it. Because they've essentially stopped handing out keys for upgrades.
Speaking of upgrades, if you're on 21H2, you're at end of support already? We're talking Windows 11. You got to keep up with this stuff. You can't just run old versions of Windows 11 anymore and expect to stay secure, I guess. Better be on 22H2. Windows Server 2012 also reaches end of support.
Hooray!
So just a PSA. There's not a whole lot here. Stories from Bleeping Computer, but they want you on 22H2. Automated feature update.
Move along, please.
Yeah, no, 22H2 is pushing itself pretty graphically.
This looks like a banner ad. Windows 11, 22H2 is ready, and it's free. Download and install now.
Or stay on Windows 10.
It just seems like the EOLs are coming for so many things in the Microsoft camp, including some versions of Windows 11. I've got a Windows 10 update, that's sitting behind, on this machine right now, actually. So there's still a few updates left out there, but I didn't expect to see Windows 11 versions being end of life so soon.
We saw it in Windows 8 already.
This quickly?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, there's a reason for that, though. That was Windows 8.
That was because Synopsky got the axe, and then they had the 8.1 everything.
Different, yes. Very different.
Brett, I was going to ask, that Windows 10 update that's waiting in the wings for you right now on your production machine, is that the Windows 11 22H2 update for Windows 10?
I believe this machine is not Windows 11 eligible, so no.
Oh, no TPM. Smart man.
No TPM. Yes.
Or not smart. I mean, Windows 11 brings you the best of Microsoft. The best of your PC.
Yeah.
The best of the internet.
No. Yeah.
No, thank you.
The best of Credge. Oh.
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay.
This is fine.
It's time for Security Corner already, and this first story is about curl. How much you curl, bro?
Well, you
Curl.
curl, you just don't know it. Doing it right now, in fact. But
You're curling right now?
Many people are curling right now.
Yeah,
Many
almost
people
all
are
of us are
curling.
curling. We just don't know it because we don't use curl as an actual tool on the command line to be able to transfer data via URLs. Your internet providers do. And, well, they've disclosed as of today, you really, if you know what curl is and use it on a daily basis, update to 8.4.0 like right now. Well, assuming you've backed up some of the containers, because some of those containers will contain OSs, and since they're being very cagey about what the hell this update does, you don't know what's going to break. They've said that this vulnerability is high. So that generally indicates that there are some really nasty things that you can do, but they're not saying anything. Now, this is a little bit worrying, but at the same time, it makes sense. If you figure something out internally or a security researcher has reached out to you and said, hey, look what I can do. And you're like, okay, we're going to fix that, but don't release the information on what the exploit is for a little bit to give people time to update. About the only thing we're getting is it's not as bad as Log4j, which it's not quite as bad as being beheaded. It's gives you a lot of leeway as to just how bad this can be. So
exactly how dead am I? Oh, you're still very dead.
Yeah,
you're still very
just
dead.
not extremely dead. You're just
not extremely
very
dead.
dead.
Just very dead.
So hope that everyone that you deal with on the provider side is updating their curl, because this is one of those things that it's sitting in the backbone. It's something no one ever thinks about, no one ever knows about unless they use it. And it's so if you're using libcurl or the curl tool itself, you just please update now. And if you know anyone who is, tell them to update now. Even if something in your Docker dies, it's still worth it from the sounds of it.
They have mentioned something about unattended VMs. You know, they're being a little cagey about what the actual issue here is, but it's probably an RCE based upon how they're sort of structuring the urgency behind this.
High is either RCE or full access without proper authentication.
That would be a 10,
what
which
else it would be.
Discovered last time. So they're looking probably at like a 9.8 on the severity Richter scale for hacking and exploits.
So yeah, but don't worry, it gets better. Well, maybe not. This is pretty much the worst one.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of terrifying because, I mean, the fact that Valve is adding a security check because a whole bunch of game devs got hacked. This is upsetting, but not horrific.
Yeah, so we've seamlessly moved into the next security story,
which is Valve is adding a new security check because a handful of their actual game developers were targeted for exploits. And once hackers gained access to those game developers' systems, they published new code into those developers' publishing streams inside Valve's Steam engine, such that they would be automatically downloaded to whoever was running those games and as an automatic update. And they caught this relatively quickly. I guess around 100 installs of the malware happened before Valve figured this out. So kudos to them. But they had held off on something that I would have thought they would have implemented some time ago. And just recently they implemented horror beyond horrors, 2-factor auth for the game developers. You would have thought this may have been something that would have occurred to them before 2023, but no. So this is new to them. And I guess I can imagine that there's a bunch of people maybe working on the same system and the same game software, and maybe they all individually might need to publish an update, and they want to be able to hit the primary channel. 2-factor auth can add what they call obvious friction to that, because somebody has to respond to a text message and a phone number, all that can be painful. So they're finally adding this as a way to cut this off at the knees, so to speak. But yeah, Valve was hacked recently, and they did it through game developers.
Security Week has a story on organizations responding to HTTP 2 zero-day exploits for DDoS attacks. What is HTTP 2 rapid reset?
Well, it's a bit
it's
deep.
like Web
kind of,
3.0, dude, but it's just even cooler. Sorry.
Web pages transit from servers to browsers using a variety of protocols. Most, up until recently, were using what's called HTTP 1.1. HTTP 2 takes a look at the HTTP 1. Protocol and gets rid of all that inefficiency. Lack of compression, a lot of clear text handshaking, single stream request response, and throws all that out the window and goes, there's a better way. Now that we have far faster computers accessing websites, let's do multiple streams, let's do compression, let's do away with some of the superfluous handshaking, and let's just get right down to the business of sending data from the server back to the client so that people using the web can experience a faster service. Great ideas in practice. However, this exploit takes advantage of a legitimate protocol application, and that's called a kind of a reset or a restart. So in the middle of all of this fast request response, compressed data going back and forth, the client can say, whoa, I didn't get that. Let's do a quick reset and start over again. That's apparently, obviously, in retrospect, a very asymmetric request, meaning that it's very cheap for the clients to do that sort of thing, but very expensive for the server to kind of back up, recompute, and shut down multiple streams and resend. So, noticing this becomes a back or front door, really, to a massive potential denial of service attack. And they're doing it. And it doesn't take a lot of hacked home gamer or home CPUs or IoT devices to completely swamp a service or a system. And several major vendors such as Amazon, Microsoft, and Google have already put in ways of kind of mitigating this. But if you're running a web server out there, you probably need to figure out a way as soon as it's patchable to make sure you can sidestep this one, because it's going to be rather severe. The next story illustrates Google just mitigated the most significant DDoS attack in history with a relative ratio of normally there's like 3 or so billion requests a day or per hour, whatever rate the typical internet runs at with legitimate people accessing services and sites. This was like 100 times that level of traffic, and Google had sort of mitigated it against one of their services that was behind their servers. Google
just
says
like they did the last time.
Successfully stopped the largest DDoS attack ever. So this is actually a very serious thing. So we often don't talk about the server side, and we're often really speaking about the clients, Windows, typically, or Linux, often as a client, sometimes as a server. But pay attention to web servers and look for a fix for HTTP 2, or maybe turn it off in the meantime. Slow your stuff down.
Turn it off in the meantime.
In the meantime, maybe, if you can't mitigate.
I mean, one has served us.
Cannon may have some new ammo to be firing out.
Mm-hmm.
We've been using version 1.1 for a really long time. So, it's familiar, it's comfortable.
It's texty. Mm-hmm. It's very clear texty.
In a story that appears to just be stating the obvious, poor cybersecurity habits are common among younger employees. Is this?
I wouldn't have thought this.
Security? You wouldn't have thought? Oh, okay.
No, I would have thought that, because there's actually a blurb in here that says, the younger generation is more technically savvy. You'd think that this would have sort of seeped into the cosmic consciousness of people raised on cyber everything. That just securing your way of interacting with stuff might have finally kind of gotten to them, but apparently no.
They're not savvy. Just because they have access to the stuff and use it every day doesn't mean that they know anything about it. And they don't have very good internet hygiene.
No.
To say the least.
Well, they don't remember spending a day and a half downloading something from Napster only to find out it was not what you downloaded.
I don't remember coming home to see if your video clip is downloaded in Real Player, only to discover the internet connection was interrupted, of course, and it's
someone picked up the phone.
Yeah.
Yep. But there is a positive side to this, Sebastian.
Oh, is there?
Hand a child a magazine and just sit back and laugh.
But their illiteracy?
Have you not done this? No, they tap on them. They try and make the pictures zoom.
Like a little kid. Yeah.
They're
Sebastian,
truly baffled.
I thought you might take offense at the where they decided to divide the age between younger and older. They chose 40 as the older.
It's
just all emanations from the Pew Research Center garbage. You have a bunch of 14-year-old iPhone users who don't know anything about anything except they know Blue Bubble and all the latest memes and trends. And they speak in a slightly different...
Please carefully notice how only one of the podcasters in this show is upset about that 40-year cutoff.
I'm not upset about it. I personally identify as Generation X, but I'm excluded, according to the Pew Research Center, by
you're
2 months.
excluded by a couple of years.
Anyway, yeah.
The takeaway is if you've got some younger folks in your organization, don't assume they know what they're doing from a security perspective.
I never do.
No.
I never assume a younger person knows what they're doing.
For God's sakes, tell them, please.
I work with many people with many more letters after their names than me, and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
From a technology standpoint.
And a security posture perspective, and what you do and don't do. Yeah. Like using your birth date and your password and stuff like that. But anyway, moving on.
Let's move on to gaming quick hits. On our first story, Space Wreck is short and very replayable, writes Jeremy Hellstrom.
It's true. And some of the screenshots look adorably, original Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. Up to and including the dialogue, the way that they've sort of set it up. But one of the interesting things that they did, well, two of the interesting things they did is they specifically made it very short. So if you don't have a lot of time and, you try and sink in 100 hours to finish a game and it's by hour 50, you're like, no, I literally forgot what I was doing because I haven't been able to play for a month. So they've made it specifically rather short, but they're claiming between 3 to 8 ways to complete any of the quests. You want to do a pacifist run? Not a problem. You want to be a psychotic, crazy person? Go for it. You want to do something weird in between? For sure. So it's been in early access for a while. Today is the day it launched, so there's a cut price. It's less than $15 if you want to pick it up, or there is a demo. And hey, I love games that offer you a demo. You get to try it out and see, is this just going to be annoying or am I actually going to like this? So this one seems interesting. I wish I had the time to try it, but there's a bunch of other things and I'm supposed to be doing a Total War Pharaoh review, what I need to get on. So I haven't given it a shot yet, but hey, it's got a demo. Try the demo. See if you like it. Maybe it will be old school Starfield, because it is Fallout in space, but it's the first ISO Fallouts, not the first-person ones.
Us older guys love demos. I'm all about the demo. Demo CDs.
Even if, demo levels. Just give me the first couple of levels. Let me play it.
Yeah. That was the best part about Boot. And then it became Maximum PC.
Maximum PC.
You had 700 megs of cutting-edge demos and benchmarks and everything else you could possibly want.
Just back when the PC was exciting. It was something, it came in the mail and you could do new stuff with it. And plus it encouraged you, it motivated you to buy that new graphics card.
Or the new hard drive.
Yeah. Or the new hard drive because yours was full.
It's what? It's a gigabyte? Your game is a gigabyte?
Insane.
Look, Forsaken is out and it has colored lighting and dual texturing. I got to get the Voodoo 2.
Yep.
Somebody said generation demo. in the.
Generation
You're
demo.
not wrong.
I identify
You're
as
not
generation
wrong.
demo, 100%. Next up, a humble bundle. Imagine that. This is called
Yes.
Control the Narrative Game Bundle. I'm seeing.
Because, Borderlands is very well known for their narrative.
Well, yeah, there's something going
This
on.
is new tales from the Borderland, Jeremy.
Right.
New tales.
Beyond the
As
Steel
opposed
Sky.
to the Tales from the Borderland just below it.
That's okay. There you go.
But no, some of this is interesting. I honestly, it's on the list of, some of these I wanted to play and just haven't. Like Beneath the Steel Sky is apparently very well done. But have yet to try it. So, hey.
Is this
really
really
easy
only
way to do it.
$5? It says pay $5 or more.
Mm-hmm.
It is indeed.
It
Wow.
really is $5.
Oh, I see. You have to pay 18 for the 8 items. 3 item bundle is $5. Oh, okay.
3 is.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And you can sort of scale that to kind of where your comfort level is. If you really only have $3 burning a hole in your pocket, you can. $5.
Finally, Xbox Game Studios could use board games to revisit dormant franchises. Well, board games are they're big. So
I was just curious as to what you thought of this idea of resurrecting. I don't want to call it abandoned IP, but they just haven't published a game recently. But there was, or maybe still is, a rampant fan base that really enjoyed the game.
rabid. We're
is
gonna
it-
say rabid fan base.
both.
Fable.
What, Rabid
You-
Rabbids is going to be
you-
a board game?
You wouldn't believe the rabid fans of Fable out there. I'm sure.
Well, the point is it a shameless cash grab to kind of revamp this
Yes.
into a
Yes.
board game, or is it fan service to kind of bring something out to say we can't invest a lot into this, but we still want to bring you something?
So I was just recently visiting my brother in Boucherville, which is south of Montreal. It's got a population of like 40K. And his wife suggested, hey, why don't you two go out to a pub and leave me and the kid alone for a night? And so we walked down, and literally the pub that that is not the really seedy one, which you would expect in a small town in Quebec, which there are 2 of. But this one has some decent craft beer, and the entire front wall, 4 different sections are filled with board games. And all the brand new ones, not just like Carcassonne and all the popular stuff. It was like, wait, they've got a Dune board game? That's interesting. I don't want to play it, but hey, cool to know. And they literally have a service. You give the guy $20, you describe the games you like to play, and he will bring out 3. If you don't like those, he'll keep bringing out new ones until you find one you like. So yeah, board games have spread everywhere.
Yes.
You're talking about a French-speaking town with 40K, and you've got a game bar, and it was full.
A game
people.
bar.
So,
A game bar.
That's what they called it.
I like that
It's-
phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they call themselves.
Did
is
you
a
play
game
Sorry? Except that in Canada, it's Sorry.
Sorry.
No, désolé. We were in Quebec.
Oh,
I'm not familiar with Canadian geography very well. Is that anywhere near Regina?
Yes, but you're going to spend a couple of days driving. It's thank you, Josh. It's the city that rhymes. They literally put out T-shirts that said it's the city that rhymes with fun, and people got really upset, and the city of Regina had to take those shirts down. It was the official merchandise from the city. Some people have no sense of humor.
The real reason they objected to it was it said that in English and not Quebecois.
Well, no, that's Saskatchewan. There is
Oh, I see.
3 French people there, maybe 4.
So I don't know how I'm going to salvage this.
I'm going to
but
get
yes.
yelled at for that.
Yeah. So yeah, board games. They're big. They're everywhere. You can't go to every comic book store around me is just a board game store now that also has comics.
I noticed that there's a couple of things. If everybody ever goes to that little shop called Amazon, check it out. There's
That's
probably
that
something on there you might
bookseller
like.
that guy started in his garage, right?
Yeah, some people might find a few things they might like on it, but recently I happened to notice, because it was offered to me, that there is a plethora of Fallout-based board games that I just really wasn't totally aware of just how deep that was. because some of them were on sale. So, and that's kind of what led me to potentially look at this story and go, is this a shameless cash grab, or is this an interesting new way for fans to kind of get into the source material?
Well, it's not like we've gone the other way and a bunch of board games have been turned into computer games.
I just saw the D&D
Look at you,
movie
like-
a couple months ago. By the way,
It's interesting. Role-playing games have become too mainstream for the people in the comic book stores, so they've gone to board games.
yes.
Uh,
And I will give that compared to the board games when I was growing up, the cover art on these things is absolutely gorgeous. Like you almost want to pick it up just because of the artwork on it. And then you realize, no, it's a board game with obscure rules that probably don't work very well. And yeah, no.
It's just all part of hipster culture, Jeremy. They got into vinyl records and talked about the artwork and the tactile, the feel of putting the record on. And now we have board games because computer games, they're for gamers. I don't really identify as a gamer. I'm more of like a social person. I like to drink craft
You're
beers
a
and hang out
boring
with my friends.
board person.
Lots of
Yes.
IPAs, you know.
And Byzantine
IPAs
rule
and
sets.
IPOs.
Yeah, IPAs.
Nothing's
and
more
IPOs.
fun than sitting down at a table and saying, "Oh, what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to read to you from the rules to this new game I just got that takes half an hour to learn," it says here. And and then there's all
Look.
these like sub rules and
Right.
If you
I'm
don't
going
want
to
to
keep
hate
coming
themselves
back.
in 45 minutes, just
I'm gonna
pull
keep
out
coming back to the
Monopoly and
rule
be
book.
I was
done
going to
with
say,
it.
yes. What about Monopoly? What's wrong with Monopoly? What's wrong with Yahtzee?
Nothing.
Just
Oh,
get out of here with your hipster bull. Anyway.
exactly.
Axis and Allies. There we go. Now, there's
Then
a
who
board
wants to
game.
be the Axis?
I just Uno.
Oh, come on. Axis is fun.
Josh, what do you want to play?
Risk. Just want to go and play computer Risk now.
Computer Risk.
Yeah.
What we need is a Risk song.
So a few years ago, I can't remember who got it for me, but I got a copy of the Arkham Horror Call of Cthulhu board game. And my wife and my friends and I sat down to try and play it one night. And 2 hours into trying to figure out the rules, we gave up. It was
2 hours? Come on.
yes.
Wow.
It was not something that you could just pick up and play as you're going through the rules. And it was something that I realized very quickly. I don't think once we understand the rules, I want to play this. It was just way too complicated. Way too complicated. I'm with Sebastian. There's nothing wrong with Monopoly.
Let's move to picks of the week already. Yes, this was a short podcast. Josh, please get
Yay.
us started.
Hey, you know what? It's maybe time. We've mentioned this before, but pricing is at a point where it makes a lot of sense to go AM5, and this is probably one of the more interesting boards at a price point that you can actually kind of afford at $279. It's on sale, but MSI makes a pretty solid product. They update their firmware pretty often, and it's a 670E based board, so it's not the cut down versions. And you get it all. You get like 5 M.2 slots and a couple of heat sinks for them, and you can use them or you don't have to because so many come with their own heat sinks, or if you get PCIe 5.0, it usually comes with its own massive heat sink. So it looks like it's a nice functional motherboard with good support, and ooh, hey,
It's got that 2x2.
it does. And a 7800 X3D was $349
Yes.
this week. So that's within $50 of the 5800 X3D, and that's a much faster chip. And DDR5 prices are just only slightly ahead of DDR4 3600 speeds. So you can get the 6000 stuff running at 1.35 for just not a whole lot of money. and it's awesome. It's under $100 for a good pair of 2x16.
Excellent. Jeremy, your pick.
Do you ever feel that your Wi-Fi just doesn't reach far enough? That you need it to be extended a little bit further, but you don't want to pay a lot. So you want a nice generic discount extender. Like, for instance, here in Canada, the D-Link Mesh Wi-Fi extender has gone from $65, which is kind of annoying to pay, to $25, which is, well, crap, I can get 2 of those, slap them around the house, and I don't need to worry so much about clear sight towards my my router anymore. Because I love the idea of mesh. It's just, do I really want to drop a couple of $100 to extend my network? Not really. Do I want to spend less than $100 to double or triple the size of it? Hey, that sounds pretty attractive to me.
Jeremy, I'm the kind of person that can't sleep at night without the phrase wired backhaul reverberating through my head. Okay. All right.
I do prefer it, but hey, there are times you're in the yard and the new Wi-Fi's don't quite deal
I don't know.
with
I think I just might be network OCD enough to not be able to compensate for that. But anyway.
If it makes you feel any better, Brett, I'm using wired backhaul right now.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, so am I.
For telling me that. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, believe me, I can't stand the latency that Wi-Fi does, but it's if I'm in the backyard and I want to listen to music and I don't want to drag the wire out.
Unused Memos. Unused. Okay.
Okay. All right. Brett, your pick.
So you're looking at the new driving games that are out there. There's some new stuff coming out, and you might want to sit and play, but you realize that your feeble skills as translated through mouse and keyboard is just going to expose your lack of ability. What you should do is get yourself a steering wheel. Are you Thrustmaster curious? Check out the new Thrustmaster T128P force feedback USB racing wheel with magnetic pedals, now on sale at Amazon due to their recently doubled up Prime days for only $150. This looks like a reasonably good deal for a pedal set and force feedback wheel. I admit it's not particularly high end. Josh could poo-poo this. I imagine he might chime in and say, what he says about whether or not this is a quality piece, but this might get you into kind of like the foot in the door sort of thing and on your way to a true racing rig. Try out a wheel, $150. That's my spiel.
No, it's a solid wheel. It's the next one from the T150 and the TMX that were their previous budget ones. So everything I've heard,
it's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Yep, and I want to see more people get into the racing scene so that these games continue to get made and we can enjoy them. And better competition if we ever go online again. I don't like people running into my car when I'm trying to pass them. That's annoying.
I know. Or, actually slowing down for a corner.
There's that, yes.
People behind you are not.
You know what? I have driven a slow car fast on virtual racetracks and enjoyed it immensely when I'm racing somebody who can actually race. It's so much fun.
My pick this week is, of course, Patrick Stewart's new memoir, Making It So, read by Patrick Stewart. So if you're interested in his life, he goes on for about almost 19 hours.
19 hours?
And you have to be okay with current gen Patrick Stewart. So if you know him from TNG and he has that powerful voice, it's a little different now. It's kind of all over the map. There was a section I listened to yesterday morning about toast. It was enlightening. He was saying, I enjoy a good piece of toast this day. Burned almost black. But we didn't always have a toaster when I was growing up. We had to use a toasting fork. And of course you had to have a fire going. The toasting fork resembled a trident. And it goes into the details of the toasting fork. So if you need that, in your life.
In your life.
I mean, I'm only 7.5 hours in, and he's talking about English repertory theater. You can get this for as little as $0, or sign up for Audible. We're not sponsored by Audible, but apparently they're doing a deal where you get $6 a month for the first 4 months. That's pretty good, because each month you get a credit, and you can do something like 18 hours and 50 minutes of Patrick Stewart, making it so with your credit. So, Kent, your pick.
So a lot of people know I'm into audio. And this is a product based on something Jeremy reviewed not too long ago. This is a Fuzzy speaker amp. It's using that new Texas Instruments amplifier chip that is setting the industry on fire. You can get up to 300 watts a channel out of this with the right power supply. This thing is $79.99 right now. It's got swappable op amps, so you can change your audio a little bit to suit your taste. It has treble and bass controls. It's got Bluetooth input. It's got a subwoofer pre-out if you want to have a 2.1 set up on your desk. And the sound out of these things is pretty darn phenomenal. At $80, I don't know how long it's going to be at that price, but yeah, it's almost a no-brainer at $80. If you're looking for a desktop amp, go for it.
And it's literally running a half dozen large speakers in my place. You can see one of them right behind me. This is the model of Fozzy that I use. It's ridiculous.
We have reached the end. It's already here. It's I don't know how long this podcast is going to be after editing, but it felt a little shorter than usual. It's kind of a light news week, but we will come back next week when we might have some new exciting things to talk about in the PC hardware world. We can hope. I mean, not that A3 or A580 wasn't exciting, but maybe there'll be something more exciting.
Maybe.
Yeah. But until then, thanks for watching, listening, subscribing, bell hitting, all that stuff.
Patreon
Super
making.
piping.
Yeah, patroning.
You know, don't sound so excited about leaving the podcast when, one, we get out of here early, which is nice. And two,
Nice.
your editing is going to be far shorter. You don't have to spend that many hours listening to our voices. So you just get to edit and go.
We've only been recording for 1 hour and 18 minutes and 25 seconds as I
Brilliant.
speak. And I usually have to go through over 2 hours of footage. Slog through, I might say.
It did seem like a bit of a short week.
Yeah. Kent, you want to give us a quick goodbye?
Goodbye.